Hi everybody, welcome back to those who've been hanging with me for a while, and welcome to those who are new to my channel. So my name's Adele Levine. I'm intuitive and medium, and this is the season of the witch, October, and the season of spirits. Okay, so obviously I couldn't let this month go by without making sure we're doing many topics on this subject. And I'm going to actually make this video kind of short and sweet because there'll be a lot of different topics that will go under this umbrella, if that makes sense. So here's the umbrella, and then I'll cover more in detail other things. So the burning question I get asked the most is, are you getting bombarded in this month? Is it true that the veil is thinning? Not for me. So that's not what I've come to understand. All right, so let me just hit some bullet points. So Samhain is a time of, in the pagan community, in the witch community, and maybe others that I'm not, 100% covering. So I want to respect everyone. But it is the idea, which is similar to the Day of the Dead, that the veil is thinning the most at this time and a certain date, especially usually Hallows Eve and things like this, that people believe that the spirits roam the earth and the veil is the thinnest, and it's the time where we can communicate the most with our ancestors and loved ones. Now, I have actually done Samhain events, or rituals, I should say. I have been a seer at a few of them, quite a few times. I'm going to be doing it again this year. And I'm always honored to do this for people who this is very sacred to them. But for me, it isn't any different than any other time when I'm seeing. I do this work because I want people to understand that you have access to this time. Access to the spirit world at any time that you want, and I want to get that message. Of course, that's why I do what I do, loud and clear. Like, please feel free to talk to the spirit world at any time. They are definitely listening. Here's my theory, and it's the same with the Day of the Dead, which is an awesome, beautiful ritual. Both of them are these amazing rituals. I have done Samhain where it has been where there's a ritual and I'm just yelling out whatever I'm hearing from the spirit world. I will say that when the gates are ripped open, which the gates mean is just meaning like keeping that barrier, between you and that realm. So in other words, there's a difference when I do a reading, you call me for a reading, or I do a reading for someone and they tell me specifically who they want to talk to, and I talk to that person for you, and I give a lot of details and they give me confirmations, and that is mediating for you, a specific person. But when I do a seance or when I've done Samhain, it's almost opening, well, it's not almost, it is lifting the gates, opening and going, okay, everybody in this realm, actually, I only do it, everybody in the ancestral realm for you. So we make sure that we're getting everybody in that room is welcome to just come in. So I'm not sitting there gauging like, okay, you want to talk to grandpa on your grandma's side, grandpa on your father's side, and things like this, which is what I do in my readings. Same thing when I do a medium gallery reading, which I'm actually going to be going to Montana and next week and doing a gallery there. Then it's like a group of people, and in that group I read each person in that group, up to 25 people, and you tell me specifically who you want to talk to, and I talk to that person. In a seance or my experience in a Samhain ritual, we're opening up the gates and we're saying, okay, listen, all that are associated with this realm, and we do get some that are not connected to the people in the room, are welcome into the space. Those of good intention, those of good light. I do protective circle, protective energy. I call in St. Michael and all that. And I know how to throw out the ones. I can tell if it's not someone for people in that space. But it's kind of more like cattle call, right? So that's the only difference it is for me, is that when I've done Samhain or I do seances, which I'm actually doing a couple of this week. Doing one this Friday, which will be at the Mystic Museum. I'll throw that information at the end. But when I've done those, that's how it's done. Now, I know that my wonderful partner in crime, co host of our podcast, The Witch in the Medium, Mystic Dylan, talks about, and he makes a good point, and we're going to cover this in our podcast as well, that that is true for me, and it is true. But for some people, the energy of this time is easier for you to communicate with that realm. But here's my take on why. My take on why is really simple. Everybody is in a collective consciousness, is in agreement that it is time to pay attention to that realm. And I kind of gave this example to someone. If I was knocking on your door all year round and you were just kind of ignoring me all year round, and I'm knocking and I'm knocking and I'm like, hey, I'm outside the door, and no one's coming to the door. I hear the hustle and bustle. I can actually see. Let's say I can. Let's just say I have this magic power where I can see through your door. I see you. I can see you're eating cereal. I can see what you're doing. And let's do that times 100, because when the spirit world can see much more than that. There's no time for me. Time doesn't really pass for me. I'm still like doing a bunch of other things. Maybe equivalent to looking at it like I threw out a tax and I'm just kind of waiting for you to respond while I'm running around doing other things. And I can see you online. I can see everything you're doing times 100. And then there's this one time a year where you go, I think I'm going to really pay attention to my tax. I'm really going to pay attention who's trying to contact me. Oh, by the way, not just me, but there's going to be like everybody in unison is having an agreement that this is a time where we need to pay attention the most to those in that realm. And does it amp up the energy? The spirit world has like a vibration, and then they go, okay, it's our time. They're going to listen. They're going to pay attention. So let's amp up the vibration a bit more. If you ever seen the movies that are awesome, Coco and also The Book of Life, they kind of show that in a certain way, that this is a time they honor their dead, and they go to the cemetery and they're talking to them, and the dead is like, okay, we're going to go meet you there. But it's not like, obviously in that movie, that's how they have a lot of other things to it, but that's kind of how I see it. The spirit world is like, we would always like to have this talk with you, but there does create kind of a vibe and energy in the air when everybody in a collective consciousness and a collective whole is deciding this is the time we're going to pay attention to that realm. It's the one time a year that I feel like everybody's with me. Like I feel like, hey, everybody in this world is like actually in my world. Like everybody's talking about spirits, everybody's paying attention to spirits, they're really interested, they're kind of, feeling out the energy between the worlds. Everybody's kind of in the energy with me. It feels really good for me. That's pretty much all I feel this time of year. Like, hey, I'm not alone. And then November hits and everyone's like, boom, back to like, getting our cars, getting our food, and just kind of being of this world. And that's kind of how I see it. You're extending your spirit and your energy to meet them halfway. You're paying attention. You're waking up. And if you want to know more about all this, I do cover some of these things in What Happens After We Die, how to communicate with the spirit world, signs from the spirit world, all in my channel. You should check those out. It may help you. But I am going to cover other things that people have asked me about hauntings or about about that realm and what they're thinking of, while we're doing those things to honor them and doing these rituals, and what does that do for them. And I'm more than happy to answer these questions. I got a lot of comments in my community page about what do you want me to cover in October, and I'm going to go down those lists, and some of them I've answered and said I've already covered, and some of them they're really good new ones that I can cover. But I would say to you that it's not trying to take away from anyone, but I obviously believe in this because this is what I'm here to teach. Please, please, please talk to that realm. Please talk to that realm all year round. They're very excited to hear from you. They very much want to hear from you. If you feel like they have gotten quiet or they don't talk to you that much, it's not them. It's actually our ability. It takes time. It takes practice. It takes getting used to. But is there kind of a vibe in the air during this month? Yes, and I think it's the collective consciousness. It's kind of similar to the way I feel about retrograde, which I don't believe in. Maybe I should do a video on that. And I feel like retrograde is kind of like a collective consciousness coming together, believing that everything is going to kind of go haywire and you got to be on your toes and pay attention. And I just know this because I prepare for it, and I'll do a whole video on that. But I feel the same. I may prepare for that energy to kind of hit me, where I feel like if I keep a little circle around me, it doesn't hit me. And it's kind of how I handle that. But in this idea, if you want to jump into the energy of this time, it's great. But what I would recommend is kind of pull it throughout your life. And that's probably the hardest part. It's the idea that people just don't pay attention during other times. And so, yes, I love the whole idea of the season of the witch. I love the whole idea of Hallows Eve. I love the whole idea of the Day of the Dead. I love the whole vibe. But honestly, for me, to answer your question, it's no different. So when people say, are you more bombarded than usual? No, not really. But from the living, there's more of a call for people wanting to check in around this time. And honestly, actually around Christmas too, because people start missing their loved ones. So that's what I have to say about it. Feel free to comment in below and ask your questions or share your experiences. But I would say don't be afraid of this time. There's nothing seeping in that that you don't want to seep in. And all these movies and things are just kind of ridiculous and over the top, and make everything, and all these like hoopla, like things that people tell you have to do A, B, C, 3. You really don't. You just have to talk, and maybe just wave the vibe of the energy that feels good around this time, where everybody's kind of on the same page, kind of believing in the same thing. No one's looking at me like I'm so strange during this time of year as much as they are other times of year, if that makes sense. And maybe that's what makes it a little easier, because let's be honest, talking to the dead, believing in the afterlife is still a fringe thing, and during this time of year it's not so fringe. And there's awesome cultures that recognize this. They just dedicate this ritual time. I know there's history about why this is the time and what the meaning of it and all that stuff. Excuse me, I got all choked up. I totally get that and respect that, but I'm just telling you, as a medium, it hasn't been any different for me. And I don't feel like it has to be any different for you, in the sense that you can have access to this realm anytime you want. So, because in that realm, there is no time, there is no dates, so they don't need to wait. We're the ones that are paying attention to that. So let's get started with the month of October. I'm excited to cover all these fun subjects for you guys, and all these serious subjects as well, meaning that I take it seriously, but I like to also keep it simple and light for you guys to realize it doesn't have to be this complicated. Follow yourself, follow no one. Follow me on Instagram though. Not a good segue. Adele Levine. If you want to check out the Witch in the Medium podcast I do with Mystic Dylan, we're also on Instagram, and you can also hear us on any platform you choose. And we are doing 2 events this week. Actually tomorrow we're doing a class, The Journey of the Underworld, where Dylan teaches you about the history and I take you into that realm. It's a journey. You can go to Mystic Museum Instagram and check out how to get tickets for that. And then this Friday on the 11th, we're actually doing a seance there as well. Thank you guys so much. Listen to yourself, listen to your inner compass, listen to the other side, open yourself up to it. Put protection around you, but open yourself up to it. Don't feel funny about it, and enjoy the ride of learning how to harness this muscle. See you soon.